I've heard and read that you were involved in the Back to the Land movement when you were
Hmm.
younger, homesteading, living off the grid, as we would call it today.
You
That
bet.
must have played a role in your development as a craftsman. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Very much so. Yeah, this was in the 1970s. We're living, there was the big Back to the Land movement, the Whole Earth catalog, the shelter books, and everybody's just, this was a whole huge thing. Woodstock Nation, Woodstock Generation,
Mm.
and just a huge amount of work. Well, we lived up, and my wife and Jane and I lived in, after various adventures up in the mountains of New Mexico and building houses, dropping trees, building barns, hewing timbers. In fact, I made the only job I was able to do up there, I bought a case of dynamite, and from a page in the Whole Earth catalog reviewing a book on how to do blasting. I just had that open page. I couldn't afford the book, just the open page. I read that and taught myself how to do blasting. So I had the case of dynamite and made a living up, such as it was, up in the mountains, blasting outhouse holes and rocks out of the road and so forth. So,
It seems like you had unusually good judgment when you were young. That seems like obviously the way one learns to do demolition
absolutely.
and blasting. Clearly.
Well, it's like anything. You just get you. Let me recommend everybody get you for your kids. Case of dynamite, one page out of the book. That's all you need. The
Well,
fun never stops.
you've raised two daughters, so clearly
Yes.
something went right.
Unless I
So,
blew myself up back then in the 70s, and all the rest of this is just a dream. You never know.
so were you making a lot of stuff for your home back then, building a lot of furniture? Did
Yeah.
you build a home at some point out there?
Oh yeah, yeah. I blasted into the top of a mountain, looking out down the valley. You could see, if the earth wasn't curved, you could see your butt standing on top of the roof because it was way up high, looking way out. And if there was anything in there, you had to make it. Water, carried up from the well way down below in the valley. It was wonderful.
I mean, it seems like there's a renewed interest in that sort of thing right now, and homesteading has become kind of a buzzword for people. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear about people who were doing it. I feel like it ran like I have a hard time imagining it in the 80s, where there was a
Ooh.
different culture and people weren't as interested in that sort of thing. But it's come back again, and it does seem to tie into craftsmanship and making things.
Yes, and it's an old cycle too. A lot of the books we had to go on in the 70s were written in the 50s, in the 30s. You think of Thoreau. Uh, there was 5 Acres and Independence, written in the 1930s, I believe it was. When again, society was under a whole lot of stress. People just said, "Man, I just gotta, give me
Get out.
give me a break." I'd
Yeah.
rather be splitting and stacking firewood than just dealing with this the crazy world around me. And and it just goes back in time. You look at the way Moxon introduces uh, the doctrine of handiworks, mechanic exercise. He just says how pleasant and healthy their recreation is. People who know how to make things with their hands. In other countries, people make things all the time. What's happened to England? Now, this is 1687 or so. You
Yeah.
say, what's happened to our country? Nobody makes things anymore. Let's learn how to work with our hands again. 1687. So it's an old story.
Now, a lot of your knowledge clearly came from books, but I assume even before Colonial Williamsburg, there must have been some actual mentors, some people in your life who showed you some things.
Uh, Mostly self-taught, but I hate to say, but I was hired right away by the theater department at the university to build sets and props, and was good at it, and so worked all through university years. And so then finishing that, You know, I got to say, the luckiest breaks I had after getting out of school were the jobs I did not get. If I had gotten a job, you know, like teaching, heading the preservation technology department at local college, you know, that might have been enough, and I would have given up on the more far-fetched ideas like doing a TV show on traditional woodworking. And so I lucked out a bunch of times with things that I thought I wanted, opportunities to work for other people, and ended up back on my own. You never know.